Hello, welcome to Belgrade TV. If you are new here, please subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss our next video. African countries and the countries that colonized them. Colonialism in Africa dates back to 19th century, when the European powers scrambled for colonies in Africa. This happened when slave trade was in vogue following the Industrial Revolution, especially in America. After the Berlin Conference in 1884, African countries were shared among the European powers, with the British and France having more colonies than Spain, Portugal, and the rest. In this video, we will be talking about African countries and the countries that colonized them, and we promise it's gonna be fun. Algeria, France. This country was under the French rule starting from the 19th century, in 1830 to be precise. Alger, then known as Algeria, was administered as an integral part of France. Wikipedia states that Algeria is the longest held overseas territory. This country gained independence in 1962 after the famous Algerian War. A source links the war to the influence the indigenous Muslim population had towards the French government for relegating them to the background as regards the governance of their homelands. Côte d'Ivoire, France. This country, also known as Ivory Coast, was colonized by France, and this is the reason why French is the lingua franca. There are a few facts about this country that not many people know. Abidjan is not the country's only capital city. Surprised? Yamoussoukro is another capital city. Studycountry.com makes this clear that the former is the largest and the economic capital, while the latter is political capital. An online source states it was in 1840 that Côte d'Ivoire was colonized, but in 1871, French abandoned its colonies in West Africa after the defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, but regained the colony in 1886. It was in 1893 that Ivory Coast was officially a French colony. The French did not find it all rosy in the country, as it was met with some form of resistance. In 1960, this country attained independence, with Félix Houphouët-Boigny leading the struggle. He later became the first president of the independent nation. Egypt, Britain. This ancient land of civilization had British as its colonial masters. Before the encroachment by the British, Egypt was a link between British and India. In the 18th century, British suddenly developed interest in Egypt. BritishEmpire.com tells the story thus: it was the strategic foresight of Napoleon that first pointed out the importance of Egypt to Britain. In 1798, he had the audacity of landing an army in Egypt that promptly defeated the Mameluke army. All of a sudden, British alarms began ringing as they realized that their profitable Indian empire was under threat. It was said that the British launched an attack on the French army in Egypt and was defeated as Napoleon left the French to their fate. And after the defeat, the British refused to move their armies away and somehow kept Egypt under their control. But in 1805, a radical Egyptian leader, Muhammad Ali, came and defeated the British army. They returned years after and took control of Egypt, and this time around they were a bit stern in their control. This happened in 1882 until 1956. In 1956, the British withdrew their forces in accordance with the Anglo-Egyptian Agreement of 1954. Ghana, Britain. Country Studies, an online blog, claims that military confrontations between Asante and Fante contributed to the influence of British on Gold Coast. According to Wikipedia, the first Europeans that arrived at the coast were the Portuguese in 1471. Their interest was mostly in gold in the land. British took interest in West Africa as a whole when they ventured into slave trade. The need to have slaves work for them in sugarcane plantations in the Caribbean made them tap into the African market. In 1867, the government formed the British Gold Coast Colony, having taken over the remaining interests of other European countries. And by 1901, British had established a colony incorporating all the kingdoms and tribes into a unit. Ghana attained independence in 1957. Mali, France. An online blog narrated that French military penetration of the Sudan, the French name for the area, began in 1880. A French civilian governor of Sudan was appointed in 1893, but resistance to French colony did not end until 1898 when the Malinke warrior Samori Touré was defeated after 7 years of war. The French government planned to use indirect rule in governing Mali, but it did not quite work, so they had to switch to the normal policy and rule them like other French colonies. In 1959, Mali joined Senegal to form the Mali Federation, but the federation did not last as it crumbled in 1960. On 31st of March 1960, Mali became an independent nation. Nigeria, Britain. Wikipedia, talking about colonial Nigeria, stated that Britain annexed Lagos in 1861, but British did not effectively occupy Nigeria until 1885, after the Berlin Conference. The British influence can be dated back to 1st of January 1901. It was in this year that the West African country became a British protectorate. The British ruled Nigeria until 1st of October 1960, when it gained independence. The British formally united the Niger area, the name of Nigeria during colonialism, as the Colony and Protectorate of Nigeria in 1914. Angola, Portugal. History has it that Portugal's influence on Angola can be traced to 15th century. HistoryWorld.net claims that the Portuguese came to Angola hoping for gold, but they soon discovered that slave trade was more profitable and they started exporting Angolans as slaves. Another source has it that Portugal's colonial claim to the region is recognized by the other European powers in 1880s. An educational website, education.statesuniversity.com, states that the Portuguese ruled Angola for 500 years. The Portuguese did not want to grant Angolans freedom, and the first nationalist movement by Angolans in 1961 was faced with resistance. The struggle continued until they attained independence on November 11, 1975. Experts have blamed colonialism in Africa for the underdevelopment the continent is going through in recent years. Some people claim that if colonialism never took place in Africa, Africa would have been better than it is today. Keep a date with us as we shall continue in our next video the remaining countries and the countries that colonized them. If you are an African who colonized your own country, let us know in the comment section. If you like this video, please share and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.